the man himself, O'Leary Ventures Chairman Kevin O'Leary. You know, Kevin, you reminded me with that comment, smash heads into the wall. You reminded me of what Xi Jinping said, okay? When he was celebrating the 100-year anniversary of the Chinese Communist Party, he said, anybody who gets in the way of China's reunification with Taiwan is going to get their head smashed to dust. Remember he said that? Is that where you got that?
It was ringing in my mind, Maria, that the rhetoric was just being raised, and I thought it would be a good comeback. But, you know, at this point, we got to face reality here. China is not just a trade war. We have to figure out a way to finally fix the problems that have existed since 2000 when they joined the WTO. They've never abided by the rules and regulations, ever. There's no mechanism by which you can dispute any kind of business issue, including IP theft. And it's a typical situation. I'll make it very simple for everybody to understand. You invest in innovation in the United States, and the product takes off, and as soon as it hits a run rate of 5 million annually, it gets knocked off in China, manufactured there, reintroduced into the U.S. market at around 30 to 40% off, because they don't have to recuperate any R&D, and sometimes the original innovating company goes bankrupt. I've kind of had enough of that now. I've been watching it. I've never been able to litigate there, and I can't even get access to their financial markets or even sell products there sometimes without having a partner that's 51%. I want you to be aware of something, Maria, that I think people missed yesterday. Atkins was approved. His nomination went through for head of the SEC. Then Senator Scott issued a letter, made it public yesterday, that he had asked this person to enforce the law about delisting Chinese companies that were not compliant with GAAP. They were given 3 years, then the law was modified to give them 2 years. None of them were compliant. There's billions of dollars trading this morning that I think Chinese companies that are not compliant, they're going to get delisted. I think this new sheriff at the SEC isn't going to mess around. And I think this is important to continue the pressure on China to come to the table.
This is what I keep explaining to people that are armchair quarterbacks that have no understanding about what happens when it comes to international trade, finance, and relationships, and why Trump is, when Trump says that we have this trade deficit, it's not a one-for-one like you see on this screen right here. When you look at this screen, it says U.S. exports to China, and then it also says U.S. imports from China. So on this screen, this would lead you to believe that we shipping products over there, they're shipping products over here, but it's not that simple. If you want to go and do business over in China, guess what? You have to allow for a Chinese company to take 51% of your company if you go over there, and then that is the baseline for you to be able to do business over in China. In addition to that, if you have a problem or they stealing your IP, because usually what happens, and one of the reasons why China wants them to own 51% of your company is not only so that they can learn from you so that they can steal your IP, your ideas, and then use that to create their own products that they then discount and sell cheaper because they have a lower rate of what they pay their people. And some people will even say slave labor. I'm not going to go that far because, you know, I can't say that, but I can't say that it's not true either. But the point that I'm making is that they are taking advantage in so many different ways of what happens inside of the United States of America, and they're also bullying other countries, and they're literally devouring their entire economies, putting their people out of work, creating a harsh environment for you to then do business with them because they're now becoming the 400-pound gorilla in the room. The problem with China is that they're still an exporter nation, meaning that they send all of their products out to other people because their people are not prosperous enough to be able to consume the products that they even make. So they still depend on the world. And what Trump did was he said, listen, we're going to partner with everybody else. Everybody gets tariffs. Hold on, wait a minute. We're not going to do tariffs all the way, right? We're going to give y'all a 10% tariff. We're going to pull that back. And we're going to increase and ratchet up tariffs against other nations. China then goes and contacts other nations and said, hey, let's rally against the United States of America. And then the other nations are saying, nah, because you've been messing up for a long time and you ain't even abiding by the rules. You go to sue somebody, you trying to figure out how to get some recourse from these companies that stole from you and stole your IP and selling your exact product at a cheaper rate. And they have no clue how to do it because the government does not allow for you to move the same way that you can move over here in the United States of America. So now that Trump is actually standing up for not only the world, but also Americans and American jobs. And meanwhile, saying that if you're going to do business, you got to do business with us. You got to do business the right way. And we're still the barrier to entry for anybody that want to get rich outside of the United States of America. That is what truly is happening. And that's what Kevin O'Leary is explaining to people. But you have so many people, including liberals, that will spite their own selves, cut off their nose to spite their face just because they don't like Trump. And instead of us doing the thing that's right for Americans and standing for each other, even if you're Republican, even if you're Democrat, y'all decide that y'all want to go against each other because you are divided politically. You know, sometimes you can come together with people that may not necessarily share your exact same interests if it benefits you both. But instead of people leaning into that, they're so hateful against Trump, so hateful against America, that they will stand with other countries, even if it means destroying you in order to build them up. And they've never even been to those other countries. It's insane.
Yeah, it's a great point because I asked Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent this very question yesterday. I mean, look, Kevin, we talk about this all the time. We've got all these companies, Chinese companies, trading on U.S. exchanges. Some of them have already been sanctioned. Some of them have already been put on certain lists, you know, blacklists or whatever in the U.S., and they're still trading on U.S. exchanges. And, you know, enabling or allowing U.S. investors to buy these stocks and, in effect, fund the expansion of our number one adversary. So I'm wondering how far they're going to go. Do we have that Scott Bessent soundbite? Because I went and I asked the Treasury Secretary about that and, you know, to see how tough they could be, because that's an economic lever that they've been afraid, people have been afraid to pull. I don't know about this administration, but most administrations are afraid to pull that lever. China will be very upset. Here's my conversation yesterday with Scott Bessent, on Wednesday, when I asked him this very question. Watch this, Kevin. How would you assess the Chinese economy right now?
They were in a recession/depression due to a real estate collapse.
Yep, I've been saying it.
Real estate bubble that is deflating. That had been going on for years, and the economy was in terrible shape. So again, they're going to go from bad to terrible, and you know, that which is unsustainable will be unsustainable.
Yeah.
The other thing that the Chinese should not do is try to devalue their way out of this, because, you know, back to our European friends, our Japanese allies, our Korean allies, the Vietnamese, if China starts devaluing, then that is a tax on the rest of the world, and everyone will have to keep raising their tariffs to offset the devaluation.
Yeah.
So I would urge them not to do that and to come to the table.
And I've been telling people that for a long time also. Y'all need to make sure y'all tap into the Patreon. Link is in the description, as well as make sure you join the Millionaire Morning Show, because we have some great conversations and I break it down more extensively than I do here. But I've also been explaining this to people, that the reason why they increased their exports to other nations and started putting more pressure and bribing officials in other nations, including probably here in the United States of America, which is one of the reasons why we haven't stood up to them until the Trump administration started holding them accountable, is because their entire economy is in shambles. Listen, I've started to see a ton of Chinese creators flooding my timeline on multiple different applications, including TikTok, explaining, oh no, and I'm like, where did these people come from? Their economy is in shambles. They have a real estate bubble that is out of control, and it's been out of control and it's been at a peak for a long time. And in order for them to take a little bit of air out of that, and I've been saying this for a long time, they started to export more products in order to continue to prop up their economy, because everything is artificial in China and it's not real. It's not real. Their people don't even make enough money to purchase their own products. Chinese people are saving their money. But you are falling for the propaganda just like everybody else. And I wish people will wake up and start to get serious about supporting America. Even if you don't necessarily care about the president, you should care about the policies that affect you, your children, your grandchildren, and ultimately the people here in the United States of America. Let me know what you think inside of the comments. Make sure you tap into the Patreon. Link is in the description. Also, Teach Hanley, 40% off your first order, 20% off for life. I love you. I appreciate you. I'm going to holler at you guys later. Peace.